Maggie, he poked her shoulder. What? She huffed. You went poopy, he pointed to her butt, which she felt with her hand, the poop mushing inside. Oh come on, she whimpered as she started to cry again. If she ever gets back she would have to be re-potty trained if she can't keep her pants clean. Dave soothed her back, then he grunted and filled up his diaper. Poopy couple, he said grinning. Margaret smiled. Poopy couple. Yeah, now we both need changes, he chuckled, making Margaret giggle. Margaret bit her lip. Can we finish watching Barney first? She asked, then get our diapers changed. Dave nodded as he sat next to her, the poop squishing against their butts as they watched the TV. Margaret bit her lip as she shifted her butt around, mashing against the gooey poop. She suddenly had the urge to stick her hand in there. No, I wouldn't, but the urge wouldn't go away. She smiled a mischievous grin as she was about to slide her hand down her backside when Sarah walked back in the room, full with her breakfast, but she nearly puked as she smelt the room. Puy, she covered her nose. Dad. Dave and Margaret looked at her as she walked towards them and peeked in their diapers. Yep, you guys did a big one. Come on, she pulled Margaret to her feet. Let's get you changed first, Mum. She led her towards her nursery and on the change table. Margaret knows the drill as she lifted up her legs. Sarah held her breath as she removed the dirty diaper, wiped her mother, then threw the dirty diaper in the big diaper pail with the others. Sarah powdered her but then secured her in a new clean diaper. There we go, she said as she led Margaret back to the living room. Now for Dad. She sat her down and took Dave's hand and did the same thing to him. Margaret noticed the 2 bottles of milk on the small table as she took one and started suckling on it while watching Barney. Soon Dave, taped up in a clean diaper, was laying down, head on Margaret's lap as he suckled on his bottle. Sarah walked past dragging the garbage bag filled with Dave and Margaret's wet and soiled diapers. How many diapers do they need? She sighed as she went outside and dumped the bag on the curb for the garbage truck. Once she returned, Margaret and Dave started playing patty cake as Barney had finished. Sarah smiled as she sat on the couch and put on her shows. Dave got bored as he decided to try and suck on his toes. Margaret giggled as she watched. That is so cute. She looks down at her crotch as the front of her diaper is beginning to turn yellow. Looks like I pissed myself, she giggled. Lucky I have Sarah to change me. She turned towards Sarah as she tugged on her leg. Sarah looked at her mother. What is it, Mum? Margaret gestured to her soak front. Sarah groaned. Really? I just changed you. Margaret giggled. True, but you can't leave me in a wet diaper now, right? She tugged some more. I want my diaper change. Sarah sighed. Okay, you big rascal, she teased as she got up and stood her up. Let's change that sticky wet diaper. She blew on her belly, making Margaret giggle with laughter. Soon Margaret is back on the table, wet diaper removed as she waited patiently for her new one. Sarah discovered that there was 1 diaper left in the mum's package, 2 in the dad's one. Guess I need to go buy more diapers. She slid the clean one under Margaret. Now Mum, she pulled up the front over her vagina. Margaret gaped at her as she listened. This is the last diaper, so until we go buy more, can you please try to keep this one clean? Margaret smiled. Okay Sarah, I have to try to keep it dry. No more peeing or pooping, Sarah smiled as she taped up the tabs and stood her up. Later in the day, Sarah had arrived at the mall, pushing the pram that held both Margaret and Dave. Margaret is dressed in a cute frilly pink dress, with sandals on her feet and a pink bow in her hair. Dave wore a blue shirt and dark blue overalls with little red boots. They both were sucking on their clipped pacifiers as they entered the adult store. Margaret beamed with pride. Well, I went an hour without needing to pee or poop. Now I gotta do that for the whole day, or until I get the box back, she giggles as Sarah looked at the packages of diapers they have on display. Dave drooled as he stared at an Asian woman on one of the packages. Margaret gasped as her pacifier fell off as she hit him. You sleazeball. Ow, whimpered Dave. Sorry, she had pretty boobies. Margaret fumed, then she noticed a guy holding her young daughter's hand. She gave a smile as she called out, Hey handsome, The guy looked at her as she lifted up her dress, exposing her diaper. Like what you see, she teased as she dropped it back over her knees. The guy did a goofy laugh as he was led away. Dave hit her back. Why did you do that? Oh, what? I can't show my diaper to cute guys, she mocked. I said I was sorry. Well, it's not good enough, she huffed as she turned her head and crossed her arms. Dave pouted, then he put head to her shoulder, pulled down to expose it as he started kissing her neck. Margaret shivered. No, not gonna work, but it is working, as he started pecking her shoulder. Darviii. Not in public, she faced him as they started to kiss. Dave's hand slid up her dress as he grabbed her diaper. Sarah split them apart again. Come on, can you please control yourselves? She pushed them to the counter so she could pay for the diapers. She then pushed her parents through the mall and out to the car park as she buckled them in and drove off. Margaret sighed in relief. Her diaper is still dry. Too bad she can't say the same for Dave as he just pooped his diaper. Margaret patted her husband's crotch. Don't worry, Dave, she cooed. When we get home I'm gonna fix all this. Then we can do bang bang all night, she gestured by thrusting a little, making Dave grin. Once they back home, Sarah stripped them of their clothing, leaving them back in just their diapers, as she led Dave towards the nursery. Come here, Dad, she cooed. Time for a diaper change, Dave laughed as he waddled. Margaret quickly ran to the kitchen. The box is sitting right on top of the cupboard. She grabbed a chair and stood on it as she reached for it. She stood on her bare toes as she managed to touch it. Yes, she cheered as she wrapped her fingers around it and took it down. Margaret got off the chair and sat on the ground. Goodbye diapers, she said as she pushed the button. Hello panties. She closed her eyes as she waited for the bright light. But nothing happened. She pushed again and again. Come on, she shook it. Work. Please, I wanna go home, but it didn't do anything. Margaret screamed in anger as she threw it against the wall. Then the box beeped. Margaret bent towards it as a bolt of lightning hit her. She cried out as her mind started changing, her memories being erased and replaced with new ones. Her memory of when she was baby, being changed by her mother and she was playfully kicking her feet. Now Maggie, stand still, said her mother May, but Margaret blew a raspberry at her as a diaper would tape around her. Listen, young lady, one day you are going to change your own baby, so hope that she will stand still for you. She blew on her belly as 2-year-old Margaret laughed, then the memory shifted. Margaret was the one wearing clothes while putting a diaper on her now naked and babified mother, who is now the one kicking her feet. Mum. Hold still. But May just blew a raspberry at her as the diaper taped around her waist. To think I'll properly do this when I get to your age, May just babbled nonsensely, so Margaret blew on her belly, making her laugh. She then remembered when she was 10, she was in school as her teacher Miss Rachel Summers was teaching them about maths. Now Maggie, she said as she went to her desk. Margaret looked up at her as she stood firmly. Why ain't you paying attention? Margaret dropped her head. Because it's boring, she mumbled. Boring. She huffed. Well, how about you stay after class doing this problem 100 times? Margaret looked up. What? No way. Yes way. Until you stop being such a baby. She turned back to the blackboard as the memory shifted again. Rachel. Get back here. Called out Margaret as she wore her daycare work clothes, holding a big diaper as she chased Rachel, who was buck naked, around the change room. No. Yelled Rachel, I wanna be naked. She giggled as she ran around the room. Soon she was sitting on her now padded ass giggling behind her pacifier. Okay Rachel, you take your diaper off again, I'm gonna spank your ass so red it'll be like a tomato. Scolded Margaret. Rachel giggled as she got up and waddled out. Wait. You forgot your dress. She grabbed her dress as she followed, but she saw her took her diaper off again. Rachel. She groaned as the men gawked at her stunning naked body. Naked. She was now 18, she and her parents were celebrating her birthday that night. She blew out the candles. 18 already. said Joe. Soon you'll go to college and meet a guy, then get married and have lots of babies. Don't get ahead of yourself, said May. Margaret beamed. Finally. Now I can do what I want when I want, parties. Boys. And lots of sex. She grinned when the scene shifted. Margaret blew out her candles. Okay, Mum and Dad, do you want cake? She looked over to the playpen where her parents are laying on their backs, clothed in just their cloth diapers as they gurgled and babble as they chew on their toys. Margaret watched them over the rails. Well, at least you'll both be 50 next year, she smiled, so this is the last year you can enjoy your diapers. She cooed as Joe and May laughed. Then Margaret noticed her pants begging to get darker. She squealed, "I'm peeing my pants." Look, Mum. I'm an adult now. May just babble as she drooled on her rattle. Margaret beamed. Soon I'll lose my potty training, put in diapers, go to daycare, meet lots of cute boys and have lots of bang bang. She giggled just thinking about it. Now she is 28, she stood at the altar with her future husband Dave as the priest finished the ceremony. I now pronounce you man and wife, he finished. You may kiss the bride. Dave and Margaret both embraced and kissed as they walked down the church and out to their car. The memory, now Margaret is standing at the altar with Dave, only they are both wearing baby versions of their outfits. Dave whimpered as an aroma filled the room. The child priest finished up as Dave got red. Margaret decided to make him feel better, so she filled the back of her diaper with poop. I now pronounce you man and wife, you may kiss the bride. They kissed as their parents picked them up and carried them to the nearest change room. They had their first diaper change as a married couple. Margaret is now age 30, she was on the phone as Dave was building something in the basement. Their daughter Sarah played happily in the playpen. Sarah then got up as she called out for her. Mummy. Mummy. Margaret covered her phone. Yes, sweetie. Play with me. She gurgled as she held her toys. Margaret sighed. Sorry, sweetie, but I don't have time for toys. Mummy got some important work to do. She got back on the phone, leaving Sarah disappointed as she sat back down and continued to play. The lighting flashed through as Margaret is sitting in the playpen, dressed in only a diaper just like Dave as they play with their toys. Dave was busy being a policeman with his cars, while Margaret looked over to Sarah talking on the phone. She got up as she called out for her, Sarah. Sarah. Sarah covered her phone. Yes, Mummy. Play with me. She gurgled as she held her toys. Sarah sighed. Sorry, Mummy, I don't have time for toys. I got some very important work to do. She got back on the phone, leaving Margaret disappointed as she sat back down and continued to play. The memories change, even her memory of being a grown-up is now erased. Her old life is gone, replaced with her new life. Maggie smiled as these funny thoughts go through her head. She sat on the kitchen floor as Sarah entered the room. Mum? What are you doing here? She picked up the broken box as Maggie giggled. I found a new toy, she said. I fixed toy. Sarah smiled. Come on, she put the box in the bin as she stood her up. Let's get you back in your playpen, Maggie giggled as she was led away. 3 months later. Davy and Maggie played in their crib as they started rubbing against each other. Wanna take our diapers off? Asked Davy. Nah, Sarah will come and take us to daycare any minute, said Maggie as she thrust. Sarah did canin as she pulled them apart. Can't I leave you horny adults alone? She sighed as she grabbed her hand and led her to the table. Maggie sat on her full messy diaper. You did poopy again. Maggie laughed. I'm a poopy mummy. Sarah giggled, then her phone rang. She picked it up as she removed her diaper. No candy. I need those reports now. No, I can't fax you it. I'm changing my mother's diaper.